This is Wickett on Wisconsin. My name's Mike Wickett. After 10 years in Milwaukee talking sports, I took a bit of a break, but now I'm back and here to talk about the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, and more with you.
And now inside the Cost Headphones studios,
this is Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett.
All right, it is time for another episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. It is Lions week for the Green Bay Packers. And what better guy to go to that spent some time in Milwaukee and now he's back in Detroit on the big flag stick, the big fire-breathing radio station of 97.1 The Ticket, and a man who we are going to have you explain if you are not old-school listeners in Milwaukee, why his nickname is Rieger 911. Jeff Rieger joins me from Detroit's 97.1 The Ticket. Rieger, it is good to see you. You look disheveled. How are you, friend?
Oh, Mike, you look fantastic, I must say. I mean, you sound better than me. You look better than me. You have like 12 kids. I only have one. I have no excuse. I don't. Although, just give me a second, okay? Because
you're
I have
a long-suffering
not
Lions fan. Like, you look like what a Lions fan should look like for as long as you've been a long-suffering Lions fan.
Right, absolutely. Like, you watch them blow a 17-point lead against the Bears on opening day, and you end up looking like this. See, they're not good for your health. Like, but watch this. Do you find this somewhat moving at all? Here, watch this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Keanu Reeves or Patrick Swayze from when they were in, what was the movie? The surf movie from the 1980s.
Oh, Point Break.
Point Break. Yeah.
Johnny
you have
Utah.
that. Johnny Utah.
Yes.
Who, by the way, is probably, in some people's eyes, more reliable in the fourth quarter than Matt Stafford.
See, it always comes full circle, doesn't it? You know, I wrote something down just for you, Mike. You said you wanted to have me on this podcast, so I actually, for the first time in my life, did a little research. I want to read you these
show
numbers.
prep. That's a new thing you're starting.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, I figured I did it so long without the show prep. Why not try it with the show prep? So here you go. You talked about it. Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings in the fourth quarter, when it matters the most, a 157.7 passing rating. Mitchell Trubisky, who by all accounts sucks, in the fourth quarter against the Detroit Lions, a 143.3 passer rating. And then you have Matthew Stafford. Before I give you the number, I must tell you, the Lions came out this year and said, listen, we blew so many fourth quarter leads last year. We're going to come up with this new thing called dagger time.
Time.
Yes. Dagger time.
Okay.
Like, Matthew Stafford thought it up. They actually put it at Ford Field. There's a banner hanging there because God knows they don't have any Super Bowl banner hanging there. So they have dagger time banners hanging there. So the first chance they get to close it out, to shove the dagger into the opposition, Matthew Stafford had a 34.7 passer rating. I mean,
listen,
the Lions.
I'm not here to make excuses for Matt Stafford because my father, he's in Detroit, and he and I go back and forth on Stafford all the time. But if DeAndre Swift catches that touchdown, have you factored in what his passer? I mean, yeah, Stafford sucked in the fourth quarter for most of that, as did everybody who wears a Lions uniform. But in that last moment, all would have been forgiven if the rookie catches the ball. But that's the most Lions ending to a game ever.
You know what upsets me about you is I was so proud of myself that I did this show prep, that I actually gave you this fourth quarter passer rating.
Is that all
and then
the
you
prep
bring
you
up
did?
some equation that I never even thought about, but you are right.
Factor in, what was that, about a 25-yard, 20-yard touchdown pass that should have been caught. How much flack did Swift take all week?
You know, it's funny because not so much. I think people just looked at that as that's his lionized moment. I mean, let's be honest. They go out. Let's reverse a little further. They go out. They get Jamie Collins, who is like this Matt Patricia protege. And he gets ejected in the first half of the game for kind of headbutting the official. It wasn't egregious, but he was trying to say, hey, this is what David Montgomery.
You can't do it.
Right. So they made contact and he gets ejected. So he got lionized. Swift gets lionized. The most of the brunt of the negativity was on Matt Patricia, Matthew Stafford, and, you know, just the fact that they're the Lions. But I think people were rather forgiving about DeAndre Swift.
Packers and Lions coming up at Lambeau Field this weekend. I know that this is a dumb question, but what kind of optimism was there for the Lions this year in Detroit? As with everything going on, and as bad as the Pistons were and the Red Wings were, and surprisingly the Tigers were pretty good in this weird, funky season, but what about the Lions?
believe it or not, this is going to shock you. There was somewhat optimism. I mean, first of all, there was the national optimism. You probably heard a billion times if you lived in Detroit that Matt Stafford played the first 8 games of the season last year and was an MVP candidate. So people were expecting in the second year of Darrell Bevel's offense for that to kind of pick up where it left off. Others were saying the defense can't get any worse than it was last year. So it should be better just because it can't get worse. So I think there were some that thought, okay, you're looking at 9-7, 8-8, and with that extra playoff spot in each conference, that maybe the Lions got a shot at the postseason. That optimism was quickly flushed down the toilet as soon as they blew the 17-point lead. And you know what's funny? You might have not heard this, but this is just Lions logic in a nutshell. For people that don't realize what it's like, and it's unfortunate if you've never realized what it's like to be a Lions fan. So they go choke away the 17-point lead after they said, hey, it's going to be dagger time this year. We're going to close games. Matt Patricia, the head coach, was asked by Michael Rothstein, who works for ESPN, said, hey, coach, it seems like you have an issue in the fourth quarter coaching. Is it something that you're doing? Like, can you take us through it? His response was, well, Michael, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I'm responsible for the biggest fourth quarter play in NFL history. And he was talking about the Super Bowl where Malcolm Butler broke up and intercepted the pass from Russell Wilson because I don't know, they decided not to give the ball to beast mode. So instead of saying, I got to coach better, he said, what the hell are you talking about? I am responsible for the greatest play in the fourth quarter in NFL history. Now, mind you, before you say anything, and I see the look at your face, mind you, who was responsible for that play call on the other side of the ball?
Darrell Bevel.
None other than Darrell Bevel, his current offensive coordinator. So not only is he tapping himself on the back saying, you don't know who the hell I am, but he's also ripping on the OC that he hired last year. Like, that is what it's like to be a Lions fan.
That's such a classic SOL, same old Lions kind of story. You know, in any other market, I even think in Cincinnati, but let's talk about in Milwaukee and in Green Bay and in Wisconsin.
Sure.
Packers fans would be pissed about that game for 3 weeks. They'd be talking about 17 points in the fourth quarter? A 17-point fourth quarter choke job for weeks. Like, you couldn't even get to Halloween probably still without hearing it. I'll bet you guys turn the page on Tuesday because it's just such a Lions way to lose.
Yeah, it's so, like, to tell you how long it's been since they blew a 17-point deficit, it was 1 year ago on opening day against Kyler Murray, and it was a rookie quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury, the rookie head coach. Lions led by 18 in the desert, and they blow it, and they end up tying.
Yep, that's
right.
They
blow an 18-point lead. And then, Mike, let me just take you back to the year before that, which was 2 years, really, from Sunday. Monday Night Football, the debut of Matt Patricia against the Jets. Sam Darnold put up 40 on them at Ford Field. So this is what it's like to be a Lions fan. It happens every week.
Does Patricia coach again that next year in Detroit, or do you, unless a miraculous turnaround happens and they win 10 games, even if they go 500, is Patricia safe, or is his seat royally hot right now?
So there's this pseudo edict on him that he's got to not make the postseason, but compete for the postseason, which is so Lions-like in itself. Like, hey, we just need you to not suck as much as you normally
not suck.
suck.
Totally. Just be,
right.
Yeah.
Just suck a little bit, but not suck totally. Yeah. So he's probably got to win 7-8 games, I would assume. He's not off to a great start. The thing he has going for him is that he works for the Lions, and the Ford family is notoriously cheap. So they should have both been fired, talking about the GM, Bob Quinn, and, of course, the head coach, Matt Patricia. The reason they weren't, and they're going to tell you that they want to give them another chance, and that they still believe good things can happen. The reason they weren't fired is because both men have 3 years left on their contract. And the Lions are way too cheap to buy them out and then hire 2 new guys. And by the way, the Lions have no idea what they're doing as far as hiring a GM to begin with. So it was much easier for them to just say, I'll give you another year. We're billionaires. What do we care? It's all good. So I think if it gets really bad, then yes, he'll be gone. But I think if they hover around 7-9, 8-8, I think he sticks around.
I made the mistake, and actually, I don't know what this says about the Lions, but I made the mistake in fantasy football of drafting DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson. which is
Okay.
classic. And I suck at
Right.
fantasy football. Like, admittedly, I stink. I'm terrible at fantasy football, but I keep playing. Just keep feeding me.
That's fun. Yes.
I'm like a Lions fan. I know I'm going to lose, but I'm just going to keep coming back for more and donating my money because all the money I make not having a job. So it's my wife's money. Let's be honest about this. So I drafted the two that don't get the carries and don't get the yards.
Sure.
How surprised is everybody that Adrian Peterson, he's not 2005 Adrian Peterson or 2006 AP, but he's still a guy that can carry the rock?
Well, I think, are you saying how surprised are they that those other two guys did not get more carries? Or
Just talk about that running game because it seems to be a mess. And because you all want DeAndre Swift to be great. You want
Sure.
Kerryon Johnson to stay healthy and be effective. And then you got the old man who's like, I still got gas in the tank.
I mean, almost 100 yards. He's remarkable. And the Lions actually did something smart for the first time ever. They actually went out and got a guy that always killed them, and he's killed the Packers too, in Adrian Peterson. And they got him as a Lion. I mean, he was outstanding. He's 35 years old. He definitely has gas in the tank. I'm not sure why the Redskins of all teams gave up on him, but they're 1-0 and the Lions are 0-1. So maybe that tells you everything you need to know. But I think it's really early to give up on DeAndre Swift. Not that anybody is.
No.
He was very good at Georgia. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. It was unfortunately a really bad moment for him in the first game of the season. He catches that ball, and as you mentioned, life is good. But I think the running game is actually better than it's been. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think the Lions are going to have one of the better offenses that we've seen in recent history. Now, Kenny Golladay is still injured. I don't think he's going to play against the Packers.
By the way, also drafted Kenny Golladay in my guillotine league. So I really would like that man to survive so I can survive. I want him to play so I can survive. I really killed it with my fantasy picks. I have too many Lions on my teams.
I'm just curious, who in God's name taught you to play fantasy football?
No one.
Number one rule
The answer is
don't
no
draft
one.
the kicker early. The number two rule is don't draft Lions.
I'm going to get my pen. Write that down.
Yes.
Write that down.
Yeah, I won my league once, 10 years ago.
Because you drafted all of the run and shoot probably, and you had Scotty Mitchell throw into Herman Moore, or you had Rodney Peete back in the day, man. That's probably what it was. And that's where I wanted to go next was exactly Golladay. I mean, what's the update? You and I are recording this on Friday. They play in a couple of days. It's 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm guessing he doesn't play because it's so early in the season. You don't want to risk it. But then again, a division win would be nice.
Well, first of all, it would be much needed too. I don't think he's going to play. I don't. He hasn't practiced all week. I don't know for sure at this moment, but all the prognosticators and people that follow the team a heck of a lot closer than I do, AKA the beat writers, they all believe that he's not going to play. But that's still okay for the Lions offense. I mean, you go back and look at the Bears game. I mean, the Bears defense is not bad by any means. They still put up points. Matt Stafford still looked good in the 3 quarters before the fourth quarter. They still were able to run the football. TJ Hawkinson seems like he's back. They have a decent chemistry, him and the quarterback. Marvin Jones, good receiver. Danny Amendola seems like he's got some stuff left in the tank. Quintez Cephas, a 5th-round pick, dropped a couple balls but got targeted 10 times. So they should be a pretty good offense. Not to mention, Khalil Mack, last time I checked, played for the Chicago Bears, and he was pretty much non-existent against the Lions on Sunday, which means the offensive line did a pretty good job. So I think the offense is no issue for the Lions. I think when Golladay comes back, they're going to be a heck of a lot better. I mean, the big question is, will Golladay sign a long-term contract with the Lions? You can't blame him if he decides not to, considering it's the Lions. He's a free agent after this year, but expect the offense to be good. Not to mention, again, this research thing. I wrote this down because, and this is how much I respect you, Mike. I respect you so much that I wrote down some notes. Let me just go to my iPhone here.
You didn't write
last time
down,
I checked,
you
Kenny
copied
Clark.
and pasted on your iPhone. That's not exactly doing research because you
Look
respect me.
at all that research.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
I don't know if you can see that. That's a lot of sentences that I wrote down for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Again, friendship, respect. But last time I checked, Kenny Clark's out for the game, correct?
I don't know if he practiced today, but he did not practice Thursday, and that generally means that he's not going to go today. So
Right.
I would say he's out.
So if the Lions are to take advantage of one scenario come Sunday, it's the run game. They were able to move the ball against the pretty good interior line of the Chicago Bears. And the fact that you guys have zero depth on that interior line, I would expect the Lions and Peterson and hopefully Swift and, it's been a rough go for Carrion to be able to move the football. I think that's the one thing they have going into a fanless Lambeau Field that happens to be right behind you. So that's kind of a key to the game. Now, unfortunately, every other key to the game goes in Green Bay's favor. but if there's a chance the Lions can maybe burn some time and run it up the mouth a little bit, which I do expect to happen.
What's strange is, for as much as the Packers dominated the Lions for so many years, in recent memory, not last year, I mean, the Lions probably should have won both of the games against Green Bay last year, but in recent memory, Detroit has given Green Bay more trouble than any other team in the division. So I don't think that they're coming into this game scared, and because of the weird no fans thing, Lambeau isn't Lambeau.
True. So for rookies like a DeAndre Swift, it's not going to be as crazy as obviously it was last year for, let's say, a TJ Hawkinson. You are right. I mean, again, let's go back to Lions logic. Let's go back to only things that ever happened to the Lions. Has it ever happened before, Michael, that, I'm serious, I'm calling you Michael. Has it ever happened before that a team has led for 0 minutes and really 0 seconds of 2 games during the course of a season and won them both? The Green Bay Packers trailed by 17 against David Blau and company in the last game of the season. You won that game. You somehow won the Monday night affair where 2 hands to the face penalties on Trey Flowers, a lot of bad calls in that game. You won that game too. The Lions led for 120 minutes, but lost them both. So I expect the Lions to listen. There's 2 schools of thought. Okay. There's the one school of thought the Lions aren't very good. Aaron Rodgers looks really good after 1 week, and he's going to tear apart a secondary that has a lot of banged up individuals. And not to mention Jeff Okudah playing for the first time. He's a rookie playing. Rumor has it he wasn't even hurt last week. He just wasn't ready to play. So he's going to be getting his first reps with no preseason reps against Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't bode well for Detroit. With that being said, so you expect the Lions to lose in big. The point spread is 6.5 favored by the Packers. But then again, you're absolutely right. The Lions, because they play the Packers tough, number one, and because they're the freaking Lions. They want to just, string everybody along here in Detroit. I do expect it to be close. And by the way, I didn't do any research for this comment because you don't need research when you're talking about same old Lions and SOL and being lionized and all that.
No, you don't. Okudah's an interesting story.
Yes.
The kid drafted out of Ohio State, 3rd overall. Highest draft pick for a defensive back ever. He didn't want to play. He wasn't ready to play. I was reading some stuff in the Free Press. People were pretty pissed in Detroit as I was doing show prep. But I'd like to know.
Good for you.
Thank you. I'd like to know what your take is on this kid out of OSU, because he's supposed to. You don't draft a corner 3rd overall to miss games and be, a depth guy. He's supposed to step in and be ready.
Totally agree. So he was drafted 3rd overall, as you mentioned. The highest drafted corner since 1997, Sean Springs, another Buckeye, was the corner drafted in 97. And you're dead on. Like, the Lions got rid of Darius Slay because for whatever reason, they decided to get rid of their best defensive player. I mean, that's what you should do when you have one of the worst defenses in all the game. You get rid of your best. But they got rid of Darius Slay. They bring in Jeff Okudah. They bring in Desmond Trufant. And Okudah, of course, was expected to start right away. So then he shows up on the injury report with a hamstring, and you say to yourself, okay, well, he's injured. That sucks. But now, as you're mentioning, there's a belief that he was only slated to play once every 3 or 4 series anyhow, that he's truly just not ready. And maybe, and I'm not saying this is what happened, this is just my read into it. Maybe the Lions said, listen, we can't embarrass this kid and we can't embarrass ourselves. So he's not going to play in the first game of the season. Now they have so many injuries at corner, they got no choice. He's got to play in the first or the second game of the season. So I don't know if that's how it all went down. I'm not saying he wasn't injured, but that seems to be the read that a lot of people that are, again, a heck of a lot in the know more than me are getting. So we'll wait and see. The kicker of it all, nothing against Okudah. I think he can be a great player. And it takes a while for cornerbacks to gel into the NFL. And he had no preseason, really. So I don't blame the kid by any means. With that being said, the Lions punted on drafting Tua Tagovailoa. They punted. They said, you know what? No, we're going to draft a cornerback. We're going to go unconventional here. And maybe they passed up on the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. And if Okudah doesn't work out and Tua ends up killing it in Miami, again, you're going to have some angry fans in Detroit. But then again, we're used to being angry. So it's just going to be par for the course.
Are fans ready to actually move on from Matt Stafford?
It's a great question. So you got morons like me. Yes. Totally. Let's move on. Then you have a lot of people that say, are you insane? I mean, Mike, you're from here. You know that Matthew Stafford is the greatest quarterback the Lions have ever had in our lifetime. Now, I don't know if that's saying much. I mean, that's like saying, well, that is, how do I want to phrase this?
My father is 73 years old. He says he's the best quarterback since Bobby Lane.
Okay. I never saw Bobby Lane. I just knew that he used to drink a lot of cases of beer and then played football.
And probably smoked cigarettes, too, at the same time. You can't do that anymore.
I mean, that's really impressive if you got me. I mean, that probably puts Bobby Lane over Stafford, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah, not to mention the whole championship thing.
Yeah.
Or even winning a playoff game. So there's two schools of thought. There are some people like myself that want Stafford gone. This is year 12. He continues to choke in the biggest moments of, I know, right? Year 12. We're old, yes. He continues to not rise to the occasion when it truly matters. You know, again, I get sick of the argument because I think I'm right on this, but it's just time. It's not all his fault. But when you draft a guy first overall, it's an organization like the Lions. I don't blame him for not being able to catapult them into actual success because they're the Lions. There's a lot of baggage you got to go through, but he's just not the guy. And I think we know that in year 12. And you saw what you saw. Go back to my research. What was his passer rating in the fourth quarter when it was supposed to be dagger time? Somewhere in the 30s.
34.7. I'm looking at your tweet right now. 34.7.
Yeah. I was so proud of it. I tweeted it out. Yeah. I mean, first time I do research, you'd better expect me to tweet. But the other group of people, they say the following. They say exactly what your father says. Best quarterback since Bobby Lane. We're the freaking Lions. We don't deserve much better. How could you really kick him to the curb and nobody else is going to do any better for you? So again, it just depends on what you believe. Personally, I believe that every fan has their breaking point. That at some point or another, every fan is going to reach where I'm at. And that they're going to say, this guy isn't the guy. Now, all the fans haven't reached that point just yet, but Matthew Stafford is not the problem. I'll repeat it, but he's part of the problem. He definitely is part of the problem.
I honestly thought the Lions would be 8-8, 9-7, somewhere in that second or third spot in the NFC North. I like Stafford. I think he has been good for the city of Detroit. I think the fans have really embraced him. His family story is great. He's really embraced the Michigan Midwest thing, despite being a rich kid from Texas who played college ball at Georgia. And I just feel like he's just been on some crappy teams, just with some horrible defenses. I mean, the best coach they've had in years is Jim Caldwell, and he was 9-7 or something like that.
And he got fired.
I know.
And then they decided to go to Matt Patricia, who followed it up with 6-10 and 3-12-1.
And who knows what happens the rest of the way.
Probably not gonna be good. No, but Mike, you are right. Real quick, you're absolutely right. Stafford's a great guy. Like, just because I want him gone, nothing to do with. I mean, seems like a great dad. He's got 4 daughters. Very charitable man around the community.
Yeah,
he's great for Detroit. He really is, and that's why I think the Ford family will never move on from him.
I think Matt Stafford's going to wind up being Phil Rivers, a guy who throws for 1 million yards, has 1 million stats, won't ever win a championship, specifically in Detroit. Maybe he goes somewhere else. Who knows what Rivers does in Indy? But I don't think Matt Stafford will ever win a champion. They're not 3 years away. Like, you look at the Lions, they're not a couple of pieces away. Like you could say, with some of these other teams. Like, you look at Cincinnati. Burrow is a rookie, but you can see in 3 years him getting better, them adding pieces. Tyler Boyd becomes really good. They got Joe Mixon. Like, they've got a formula they're working with, finally got their quarterback. The Lions have been working with that same trying to figure out a formula thing for 12 years.
No, you are dead on because there's a couple things. First of all, you mentioned Joe Burrow. I watched that game. Again, we're recording this on a Friday. I watched the game yesterday. A rookie in his second ever game threw 60 passes.
Yeah.
And he got hit like 1,000 times. That was Matthew Stafford early on. And now let's see if Cincinnati can actually go out and spend the resources to protect Burrow. And if that's the case, he'll obviously have a better shot. But it's something interesting you mentioned. So Matthew Stafford, would he win elsewhere? And I would love to see it just because, again, I want him gone. But that, again, and I want it for him too. But I also think he's had the chance to leave. And I think it's nice here for him. There's no accountability. The expectations are like right down here. I mean, Mike, seriously, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't win another Super Bowl, there's going to be some Packer fans that probably say, he won us one Super Bowl, what a bum, right? In Detroit, if Matthew Stafford were to win a playoff game, I'll take it a step down. If he were to host a home playoff game, he would get a statue. So why would you want to leave that situation? You make $27 million a year. You don't really have any expectations. Nobody inside 222 Republic Drive is going to hold you accountable. All they do is talk nice about you. I'm not quite sure he ever wants to leave. It's a pretty good gig if you can get it.
What's his contract status?
He is on 3 more years. 2 more. I'm sorry, 3 years, including this year.
Okay. I'm just trying to think who's kind of aging that he could go, maybe in the back end of his career. Maybe Brady is done in Tampa. Maybe if Breeze is done in New Orleans, get somebody into Arians' offense or Sean Payton's offense. And maybe, with having a defense or something that might actually benefit him.
I think they would have to trade him, though, because you got to get something for him. And for as many people like me that think Stafford can't win, there's always at least one person high up in some team that looks at that arm talent and says, wow, I could change this guy. He could win here. But the team you didn't mention is, what about Dallas? I mean, he is from Dallas. He's from Highland Park, which I don't really have my geography of Dallas down pat. I didn't do that research.
Sounds pretty Dallasy. That sounds pretty Dallasy, like pretty ritzy Dallasy.
I think yeah, totally. I think there's a Highland Park in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, too.
There is.
But anyway, it's like Springfield. There's one everywhere. With that being said, I mean, they don't know what's going on with Dak. Stafford would be the Dallas kid kind of come home. I mean, that to me makes perfect sense. But could you imagine if Stafford does what he did against the Bears in Dallas? Well, if Kelly Stafford's wife, gets mad at Detroit fans now, could you imagine that situation?
Yeah, but they hate Dak. They were all over Dak. They're all over Dak because he has all the weapons in the world and couldn't win with Garrett or McCarthy so far.
I mean, I like Dak better than Matt, but I've also seen more Matt.
Yeah,
I'd be up to trade. Just like, let's go. We'll take Dak. They can have Matt. Let's go.
For 2 years, who would you rather have, Dak or Stafford?
From right here, right now?
Right here, right now. Not 5 years, because obviously one guy is older.
Right. I go, right. So in your scenario, time doesn't matter.
Right.
Because Stafford's only 34 or 35 by the time it expires. I'm still going Dak.
Okay.
I've seen enough of Stafford. See, there are people that wonder, is this a Lions thing, or can Stafford truly not just win? Right. And I think most people are going to say it's a Lions thing, like blame the organization because we blame them for everything else. But I do wonder if Stafford's a winner. I do wonder if on a different situation, could he win when he needs to win? In that crunch time when he's failed in Detroit. So I'll take Dak.
I do want to ask you about a couple of other things. I know you got to get going. The Big Ten playing. I mean, how much uproar was there from Michigan fans and Michigan State fans? I know what there was for Wisconsin fans, and still, I'm not so certain it's a good idea for Madison to be playing, considering the big red blob of COVID that is hovering over Madison, Wisconsin right now. But what about in Ann Arbor? What about in East Lansing, where I'm pretty sure everyone's quarantined at Michigan State?
Well, it's a little better in Ann Arbor, it seems like, than in East Lansing. You are right. It's gruesome in East Lansing. It's not a good scene. And I mean, they are essentially telling you, like Grand Valley State, another small school here in Michigan, they're telling you not to leave the campus, right? Because they don't want you spreading COVID to obviously people that potentially are at risk. So they're saying don't leave the campus. I was totally with you early on. The Big Ten canceled or postponed or whatever. And I'm like, I understand it. It's a global pandemic. First time in 100 years. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But the more I watched other conferences play, the more I said, okay, well, then why couldn't they do it? And then Governor Whitmer comes out and says, we're going to have high school football. So you're going to play with kids. And it starts today. Taping on Friday when we're taping this podcast. So you got a bunch of kids that you're not testing. Right. So why couldn't a bunch of kids that you are testing play college football? Now, I totally understand college kids are going to be college kids. And on every campus, I mean, Alabama, LSU, not even just schools down south, East Lansing, Michigan State, I mean, Penn State, every school has had the same problem. once you get together, the student bodies get together, you're either at a party or you're just out socially, whatever. Hey, kids are kids. They're going to enjoy themselves. So yes, the NFL guys are smart. They want to get paid. They're being responsible. They don't want to catch COVID. But if you're a college kid, you want to go and have a good time. I mean, I can't blame them. It seems like it's spread that way. It seems like a bad idea, but again, hopefully they prove me wrong.
For those that remember old school 1250 in Milwaukee, you once earned the nickname Rieger 911. Will you please tell those who are brand new to my podcast, brand new to you, maybe they weren't listening in the early part of the 2010s, the aughts or whatever. How'd you earn that nickname, Rieger?
Well, Mike, it was a vivid day in 2007. The Milwaukee Bucks were playing. God, I have no idea who they were playing.
They probably lost to somebody.
Sure. Remember Coach Kristowiak, Larry Kristowiak? Yeah. Hey, he was the head coach at the time. Yeah. And Harris was the GM. Anyway, so back at the studios in Milwaukee, I was doing the postgame show for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, right, who's still at the station. And I'm doing the postgame show, and somehow, some way, if you remember, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened, but you had to hit 9 to dial out,
right?
To dial for a phone call, and then you had to hit 1 to start with the area code. Okay, so I was making a phone call apparently, and I hit the 9, and then I hit the 1, and the 1 happened to stick, so I hit the 1 again, and no, I heard nothing, so I hang up. 911 calls back. The police department calls back and says, excuse me, sir, did you call 911? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. The 1's stuck. I'm at a radio show. I'm doing a Bucks post-game show. Bucks just lost, trying to get some callers in. Totally my fault. Everything's fine. Next thing you know, there's 3 squad cars at the radio station knocking on the door just to make sure everything's fine. So from that point on, I was then known as 911 Rieger. Yes, that's how it happened. Yeah.
Was that before or after you told Bucks fans to boycott the team?
I was hoping you forgot about that.
No.
Yeah, no, that went hand in hand with it. No, that was the same night. Sparky was actually covering Brewers spring training in Arizona. And he happened to be listening. I mean, come on, dude's in Arizona. He's got nothing better to do than to listen to my postgame show. Right, yeah, nothing better to do. Sparky's listening, right? And at the time, Kristowiak was just hired. They fired whoever the coach was before him. And the Bucks were kind of stuck in the mud. Charlie Bell, the former Spartan, was on that team, if I'm not mistaken. So I just innocently made the comment. Listen, if you don't like what's going on, boycott this team. However, why don't you give them a chance? And of course, you throw around the B word and everybody focuses on boycott and nobody really listens to the actual comment where I said, why don't you give them a chance? But yes, I said, if you don't like what's going on, why not boycott? Turned into a drop. And I do feel people got the wrong idea about me.
I never knew there was another half to that. I just thought there was always boycott this team.
Because everybody's so sensationalistic, right?
It's the media. I mean, it's the fake news. It's a hoax. It's fake news media.
That was a hoax. I mean, listen, total hoax. And to this day, I'm angry about it.
Well, hey, I want to let you go, but I want to tell you that I've watched you. You and I worked at a station in Ann Arbor. You were working at a station in Detroit. You would make the drive out to Chrysler Arena and cover games. And I know that you bounced to Milwaukee and you went back to Detroit because that's where your family was. And I know you've been grinding for years and years and years in sports radio. And when I saw that you got the gig on 97.1 along with Wojo, I thought, that's awesome. Nobody deserves it more, man. Congratulations on getting that gig, because I know how hard the grind has been, where you've been spot duty, fill-in duty, post-game this, and through all of the stuff that's happened with radio these days, I couldn't be happier for you.
Thank you, Mike. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And by the way, you and I used to work together.
Yeah.
And I am very happy for you as well that you have a beautiful family. I haven't met your kids. I just have one kid myself. I know they're exhausting. So the fact that you're actually doing this podcast right now, living and breathing instead of sleeping passed out somewhere, it's truly a remarkable thing.
I'm dedicated to you. That's what it comes down to. This was actually your only window, so this is on you.
Thank you. No, but thank you for the kind words. It's really nice. And I thought you were going to tell the story. I'll just tell it myself because my wife is sleeping right now. My wife is here. She doesn't care. But there was a night where you and me and a couple of our buddies at the station back in Milwaukee went out. And it was probably the only time in my life that I had a chance to pick up a woman at a bar. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there was this woman. She was totally interested in me. Like I happen to remember she was rather attractive, and you guys were very hopeful for me. And we were, talking and hitting it off. And for some reason or another, I said I had to go home and do laundry.
You cock blocked yourself. I forgot.
My wife, who is looking at me right now, says, that's what you said?
Oh my Lord. Well, man, hey,
listen, I thought you were going to bring up the story, so I just like to figure it. I throw it out there, so you can put a spin on it.
I don't need to put a spin on it. You did. You're good. Hey, again, congrats on the success. Congrats on your family.
Thank you so much. You too, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Well, listen, I'm sure we'll enjoy it for a couple quarters. You too, Mike. It's great talking to you, man.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin. If you have any feedback or you want to reach out to the show, you can find me on Facebook, Mike Wickett Podcasts, or you can email MikeWickettPodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mike Wickett.
Thanks to Silverman Sound Studios for providing the music for today's show, and you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin.